Doctors should also have to have a license for what they say on social media. Hormone therapy and a lot of the fear-mongering about what happens in menopause and what happens in life. Menopause and perimenopause is the intersection of everything. Everything comes together. Estrogen during your reproductive years, good. So that must mean estrogen after your reproductive years, good. I still don't understand why mainstream medicine just seems to only focus on estrogen. Progesterone is just as important, and it's the first hormone that starts to decline. At the very least, your lifestyle changes are going to make your hormone therapy work better. What we bring to perimenopause with us, I think, is almost as important as what's happening to our hormones. When I hear people say hormone therapy is the gold standard for hot flashes, I always think, is it or is it peak notch?
You know it's a hot topic when my guest brand literally is called Hotflash. And you've got to trust me, she's been turning up the heat on menopause conversation in the best possible way. Hi, I'm Gayu Lewis, a board-certified integrative nutrition, health and menopause coach, and this is the Gayu Lewis podcast, a space where we have honest conversations about what's happening behind your hormones, science, the mindset, and most importantly, real stories that help women thrive through midlife. Today, I am joined by Marie McQueen, a veteran journalist and the founder of Hotflash Inc, one of the leading platforms redefining how we talk about perimenopause, menopause, and midlife health. Through her podcast, newsletter, and the Hotflash Summit, she's created a global space for women to learn, connect, and feel seen. If you're looking for some real answers, no fluff, no hype, get a cup of coffee, get cozy, and let's dive in. Marie, I'm so excited that we're doing this podcast today.
Oh, finally. I'm so happy to.
I want to begin with your journalism career, right? And you made that shift, in the whole midlife and menopause conversation. What was the trigger that made you say that we've got to start talking about this?
Well, I didn't realize I was in perimenopause, and I had a terrible perimenopause. So around my early 40s, I really started feeling like not only not like myself, but just like incredible anxiety, nightmares, panic. Like I felt awful, and I had a lot of sleeping problems. And I did various things to help those, things that helped me overall. But it wasn't until I was probably 47 and I skipped a period that I realized, okay, this is like, I'm 47, like when you're in your early 40s, you don't really want to think. I always say the first symptom of perimenopause is denial. Yeah. So you'll kind of look for everything else, but no one said it to me either. This was a while ago. But when I wrapped my head around it and I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. I looked it up, and that's when I found out about perimenopause. And I'm a journalist. Like I had written about menopause before. I wrote about it in my 30s, I remember, because all the boomers were going through it. And so I was like, perimenopause, like, what is this? I guess I'd kind of heard of it. Then I started to figure out what it was. And then I put a Google alert, because that's what I did when in journalism. I've been doing this a long time, back when we used the fax machine and a notebook, and I would phone in stories. And once the internet came along, I thought it was so cool that you could put a Google alert, and then I could just get all the coverage back from any single topic I was interested in. So I put a Google alert for menopause. I put a Google alert for perimenopause. I still have them. I was just reading them on the way up here. They don't get everything, but they tell you. Mm. And this was just like, I'm a journalist. I'm going to learn about this for myself. But I started to think, as I was reading the coverage, like, this coverage is terrible. I started to realize what a huge topic it was. I started to see, so this is like 2017, 2018. Already I could see this sort of tribalism that is really happening now, where it's like, it's either natural or it's either hormone therapy, and a lot of the fear mongering about what happens in menopause and what happens in midlife. And I just started to think, I could do such a better job with this, but I didn't really know how. And I guess I was just elongating my career further. But I knew that I could do a newsletter. It was before Substack and all that, but I thought, okay, what if I just start with a newsletter and go from there? So that's what I did.
And that was the birth of Hotflash?
Yeah, I didn't end up actually launching it until the COVID hit in 2020. I was freelancing at the time, and I lost a few contracts. And I didn't really sweat it. I just thought, okay, like I have this all ready to go, but I was doing that thing when you have a new thing to launch that you just sort of like keep finding any excuse not to launch it. And I thought I need to do this now. So I launched it in June
I
2020.
need to know the idea behind Hotflash. What triggered that name for you?
Well, so people were saying you can't call it that because most Brits call it hot flushes, but in North America we call them hot flashes. And then I wanted to call it Hot Flash, and everything was taken, like the website was taken, whatever. And it was my friend Laura, who's still the managing editor of the National, where I met her, where I was on the founding team, and we were just away in Hatta, and she said, "What about ink?" Like we were looking at all the different things, and I was like, "That's it." And now I'm actually glad, although it's a little bit confusing when you want to register because people are like, Inc., like you're not incorporated.
Yeah.
I just wanted it, to me, it spoke to everything where it was just like menopause and perimenopause is the intersection of everything. Everything comes together. Everything you've experienced in your life, every fear you have about aging, all your health problems, all your relationship problems, career, like everything intersects at this time and you rethink everything. So that's why I just loved it. Yeah.
But you were based in UAE, right? You moved many years ago, and you were one of the first person to start talking about perimenopause, menopause in this region. And I mean, even talking about menstrual health was, I mean, it's still considered a taboo, I would say. Menopause was not even like it was not even whispered. What made you say that, no, I'm going to start talking about it?
Yeah, like I have a long history with this because, like I said, I was on the national launch team and I'm very familiar with what you can say and can't say. And then I became the Arts and Life and I was the features editor there until 2017. We would never talk about anything sexual. We would never talk. I don't think we ever did a story about periods. And I don't ever recall talking about menopause or women's hormones. And that was probably because we weren't supposed to talk about it. Then I went and helped launch a website called Live Healthy for the only Emirati editor that we ever had at the National, Mohammed Al Taiba. And he was, it's funny because expats are so like, oh, we can't say this, we can't say that. And I found working with him, I would go say, hey, can we say this? Can we do this? He'd be like, sure. So I think sometimes we're more worried about things than they are. So we pushed the envelope a bit at Live Healthy. And I was invited to a woman's sexual health event at in Dubai Healthcare City, and that was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And I mean, they invited a bunch of influencers. We were talking about vaginal health. We were talking about treatments. We were talking about hot flashes, psychological things. And I just thought, okay, things are very different here. This was a press release went out about this. There's quite a few people here. We're discussing this openly. Like things are shifting. And then in short order, I had commissioned an article about, period rights, basically. And I wrote an article in the National. So I don't know what made me I knew it was a little bit strange, but I also thought, okay, I'm not making this. This isn't a UAE focused organization. It's global. So I think that I can do it. And there were some times that I felt a little bit nervous because I realized I am here. And I guess I didn't realize how much I'd be talking about vaginal estrogen or,
Yeah.
sexual health but I just did it. I just did it. And that's why last year at the GCC Menopause Summit, the first one, I felt like crying like when I walked in because I just thought, this is crazy. Like I didn't think I could really say it here. And look, there's like a whole entire day. And so I think when you start saying it, we were talking before about how when you just start talking about it, it's not shameful. It's not anything. It's the first couple of times, but the more you say it, it's just like, okay.
Yeah, I was at an event yesterday, and it was we're talking about women in workplace and why how workplace needs to evolve. And people say, how do we do it? I said the first thing is that we start speaking. I think as women, we tend to kind of not really talk about what's happening within in ourselves. Like you said, the whole kind of saying, no, I'm not even there in my perimenopause years, all of that. And then once we start talking is when the men will understand, or even other women will understand, and then we can come up with changes that eventually, like we didn't speak about mental health, and now there's the whole month dedicated to mental health. Now we started speaking about midlife, perimenopause, menopause. And I mean, the summit was an amazing thing to say that yes, UAE has taken such a bold step to have an event like that. And the second has happened that a few weeks ago, I mean few days ago, I would say. I mean, fantastic to see the Middle East, really living up I would say.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I know people would say to me in North America, like, are you even able to talk about that here? But it's like, yeah, we can talk about it. We can talk about it. And, you know, now I sometimes have to stop myself, like, should I actually say that? Because it's a pretty technical sexual thing or whatever, because as we know, this transition affects you in all sorts of
Yeah.
ways. So,
Okay. Uh, I wanted to ask you this question. We spoke about, I mean, after you've started speaking, now there's a lot of noise about menopause and menopause, some good, some bad. And when you hear these, are there anything that really irritates you, saying that, okay, fine, we gave it a voice, but this is not the voice that we wanted to hear?
yeah, there's quite a few things that irritate me, and I don't want to focus on them. But as someone who has been very, very careful about relaying information for more than 30 years, I had the comment section in my email box. I would hear from the people. People would leave messages on my phone if I didn't get something right. So I am like super, super, super careful. I don't always get it right. But I sometimes think that doctors should also have to have a license for what they say on social media in addition to practicing medicine, because I would say they're not that careful. And there's, and I'm not every doctor, but there's a lot of mainstream doctors who become very famous talking about menopause, and they're very excited about hormone therapy. And there's a lot of companies that sell hormone therapy, and I call them e-maxis, estrogen maximalism. There's people who are just, they talk about this like it will fix everything, and it's absolutely something that every woman should be doing. And I'm a fan of hormone therapy for people who need it and require it, but certainly the people who are saying like every woman should be on it, and breathlessly quoting studies that show the benefits but never mentioning studies that show some of the drawbacks, these are the things that really, really frustrate me. And one thing in particular, and it's always very hard to describe, but one of the criticisms of the Women's Health Initiative study that found the greater risks for breast cancer and dementia from hormone therapy in 2002, that when that arm of the study was shut down, one of the criticisms is that they use something called relative risk to amplify the risks. And relative risk is, I call it a bit of a scientific sleight of hand, but really, when you're trying to figure out the risk of something, you use the absolute risk, or you figure out how many women would need to take this to do this. And so you hear over and over people criticizing the Women's Health Initiative for that. And then you hear the same people criticizing the Women's Health Initiative for that, using relative risk. You see these people saying, oh, this study showed a 50% reduction in cardiovascular heart attacks.
Yeah.
And the impression that people get when they see that is, oh, me sitting here now will cut my risk of heart attacks in half, when it's not that at all. It's minuscule. And it's a complicated science thing, and it's very nuanced. And I don't know that a lot of people want to know about it, but it's true.
Yeah.
So if you see a study saying hormone therapy reduced the risk of dementia by 32%, just know that's a very, very, very small number when it actually gets out into the world. And if you knew how small it was, you probably wouldn't take hormone therapy just to prevent dementia.
But I'm just talking. You speak to so many experts, doctors in general, and a lot of them, I don't know why, but they generally prescribe HRT because I think the industry is such that it's more symptom driven rather than really understanding what's going behind in your body. But how do women really self advocate for themselves? Do they question do I really need this, or should I look at other alternatives? Really look at changing my lifestyle. Like I said, this is not a magic pill.
No.
Like the patch is not going to help you for everything. You still got to make the lifestyle changes. What do you think that women need to do?
Okay, so I've just created a course that I'm now working on, called the Perimenopause Game Plan. And it's for people who actually want to figure this out for themselves, really understand what is happening and what they need. But most people don't do that. I have friends and family members, they just go to the doctor, they take a pill, then they get some weird side effect, and then they're like, oh, what happened? Like, I don't understand. There's a lot of people, and I used to be one of them, who just like live in fear of what's happening in their bodies and trust the doctor and just do whatever they say. And once you start examining this, it's shocking, because honestly, a woman going through having a hard perimenopause will get a range of treatments depending who she gets an appointment with. So if someone tells her, oh, go to this naturopathic doctor, then she might get just progesterone, which might be all she needs to sleep and help her mood and anxiety and maybe heavy bleeding. But if she ends up in her mainstream doctor's office, she might get a combination patch, which is bioidentical estrogen, but synthetic progesterone and progestin. And, that is even weird because we're told bioidentical hormones are better, but you're given a patch that's half bioidentical and half synthetic. There's so many crazy things like this that I just really think, and I've had friends who, they couldn't get their regular patch and oral progesterone pill, so they ended up on the combination patch. And, there have been some risk signals from synthetic progesterone, bioidentical progesterone, made from plants. It's most like what our body makes. It's very, very different from synthetic progestin. And it's increasingly recognized that if there are risks, they're coming from the synthetic progestin. People don't know that. People don't know this basic stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what the answer is because people have kids and they have jobs and they have aging parents, and this is a lot to learn. But I wish everyone would just stop and just take some time to just get the lay of the land, because you're making decisions right now that could impact you for the rest of your life. And if you go to the doctor and you just get on hormone therapy, honestly, a lot of the time the doctors don't fully understand things, like the progestin thing. I've had doctors on my podcast, they just don't seem to even really, because in the medical world, there's really no difference. You know what I mean? Like that's like a naturopathic, this stuff as an integrative person. But I would want to know this before I went on hormone. And I would want to know that just because in the medical world, you go on hormone therapy when you go through menopause, because it treats it as sort of a deficiency and perhaps possibly leading to disease. Many modalities around the world are helping women immensely without a hint of hormone therapy.
Correct.
Homeopathy, Ayurveda, traditional Arabic and Islamic medicine, like traditional Chinese medicine. It's not required. And I know it can really help people with bothersome symptoms, but also people have been helped and made it through it and are living great, healthy lives to their old age without it. So, it just all depends who you go to and what you listen to.
Yeah.
And the current narrative is very much like, you need this.
Yeah.
It's very simplistic. It's very I was talking about this with someone who is very smart, who's written books, and we talk behind the scenes all the time about this hormone hype. And she's all for hormone therapy. She takes it herself, but she said it's very simplistic. It's like, okay, estrogen during your reproductive years, good. So that must mean estrogen after your reproductive years, good.
Yeah.
It's literally like that kind of thinking. And so anyway, I could go on about that forever. I have friends who take hormone therapy. I'm so happy it's helped them sleep, and it can be helpful for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I have nothing against HRT. I think works wonders for people who need it. But again, make the lifestyle changes to help you with if you just take the patch and not try to sleep, have a good sleep hygiene, it's not going to help you anyways.
Yeah, and I think there's for sure a placebo effect right away, because people have said, well, I slept better like that night. And that's possible, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's at the very least, your lifestyle changes are going to make your hormone therapy work better. Yeah. If you really believe you need hormone therapy to take you into old age for longevity or whatever. I really worry about people taking hormone therapy and drinking alcohol. That really worries me. I feel like,
are you doing the right thing?
Yeah, I feel like, I used to love drinking too. It's just a tough thing that happens in midlife where you can't do it as much. But I worry about someone who's drinking wine every night and then is adding estrogen into that, because we already know that, alcohol is a huge risk factor for breast cancer. And, if things aren't detoxing properly and then, you're overweight on top of it, it's just like, it makes me worried about risk.
Yeah, midlife and the complications that come with it.
Yeah. And stress. Stress is huge.
Yeah. You recently organized the Hotflash Summit. You had some great international speakers, and, you spoke about the whole science, culture, trauma. There was topics, all the topics that were discussed. What were the 5 key messages that resonated with you?
Okay. Well, my main goal was I don't want anyone who's trading in fear, because that makes me crazy. That's another thing that makes me crazy on social media, is people sort of making women feel like they have to be terrified. A big one was Dr. Aviva Ram, who's like, she's a medical doctor, but a midwife and an herbalist. She said that we need to stop and ask ourselves 3 questions. My gosh, I hope I can remember. But they were basically like, what do you need? How do you feel? What do you want? And I started to choke up when she said that, because I felt like I don't even ask myself that, and since she said that, I've been asking myself that question a lot. And it's really changed everything for myself. Because rather than, like, this morning, I was really tired and I wanted to go do weights. And then I just felt very tired. And I thought, well, you're very tired. So why don't you not you don't have to do weights right now. Why don't you just have a little lay down? And it was all I needed. So that was a huge one. Again, I was just blown away by the power of the forward thinking naturopathic and integrative people, and how much further ahead they are on all this, and how they always get maligned by mainstream medicine. But it makes me giggle because they're only 10 or 20 years ahead of everyone, and have been. We talked a lot about progesterone, and so I'll make this my number 3. I still don't understand why mainstream medicine just seems to only focus on estrogen. It doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah.
Progesterone is just as important, and it's the first hormone that starts to decline, and it causes, like, I know that's why I was getting nightmares and I was having a fear of flying early in my 40s. It's like textbook, right? So that'll be, what is that? 3?
Number 3. Yep.
Okay. Number 4, well, we're not doing ourselves any favors. And I don't want to put the blame on women, but so many people spoke about, like, we had a somatic, Erica Hornthal, who's, she teaches women dancing and somatic movement. And she was talking about seeing women in her neighborhood, like our age, going for a walk with the weighted vest, with the coffee, with the dog, with the phone. And I thought, yeah, I heard this kind of thing through and through. We're not we haven't been feeling, especially people my age. We haven't been feeling our emotions. We're running as fast as we can. And that is really preventing us from, like, healing through this transition. I'm sure you must see this when people you're not sleeping, you're run ragged.
Yeah.
And you can't even go for a walk with no sound, and not listening to anything.
Yeah.
And, I heard this over and over from people, but that really, really stuck out to me. Because I saw it in myself. I don't want to wear the weighted vest and have the dog, but I'm always having to maximize in some way what I'm doing. And it's just very hard for me to relax and just, like, do one thing. And I know that caused me problems all through my life. I know that inability to just be with myself probably created a worse perimenopause for sure, because I had to go, 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 go. And the 5th one, is what we bring to, and it was across many speakers, but I'll single out one. What we bring to perimenopause with us, I think, is almost as important as what's happening to our hormones.
Yeah, totally.
I honestly think they're equal, because I'll use myself as an example. Adverse childhood experiences, we all have them. You didn't have to be chained in the basement. It wasn't like that. It was just, as a child, whatever was traumatic for you, that you maybe didn't get the support you needed. Chronic stress. Went on the birth control pill for 12 years. That was also hard on me. It doesn't have to mean it is for everyone. I didn't have any difficult pregnancies, but many women do have difficult pregnancies. These are a risk factor for perimenopause. I had chronic stress in my career. Being a journalist in Canada, I saw really horrible things. And I started having, like, IBS and gut issues around 30. And I thought that was normal. Well, you can't have gut issues for 20 years. Yeah. And so I had some surgery, had some antibiotics, and then everything blew up. So that's just my case. But whatever you have, some people come, we have evidence that, like, sociological problems, poverty, sexual assault, domestic violence, racial weathering, adverse childhood experiences. We know, we know that these things make perimenopause worse. We know that they worsen the symptoms. And so that's why I think having sort of a plan before, I'd love to see people work through this stuff. I wonder if I used to go to yoga and do all this stuff in my 30s, but I also worked out like a maniac, and I basically was running from a black cloud of anxiety. Like, that's what I was doing. Or trying not to get pulled down by sort of like a mood. And that was all because I just hadn't processed any of the stuff that happened to me, and then new stuff kept happening, and then I wouldn't let myself feel anything about that. And I think you're forced to in perimenopause. Like you're forced to, your hormones recede.
Yeah.
And I say it's like a beach with a bunch of garbage on it. Like when the tide goes out,
Yeah.
it's like beautiful. And then the tide goes out and you have to run around and pick up the garbage.
I love that. I love the way you said that. I think that's going to stay with me
I've been doing
100%.
that for 10 years, you know, and I've done it in all sorts of ways. I've been doing 9D breath work in Dubai. I've been doing like something called the Workout Witch that helped me move some trauma through my body. I've done lots and lots of things, some courses, things about love, things about money. Like, yeah, I believe that what we bring is almost as important as what happens to our hormones. And what irritates me a lot is it's just about the hormones.
Yeah. But don't you think that it's all women? I mean, this story, like you said about yourself, but I think it's every woman.
Yeah.
I think I always say this whole rushing women syndrome, right? Like we
Yes.
keep running, we always want to be the best at everything. And I think we kind of do this to ourselves. And I always say, I think when we're young, when I'm saying young in our 20s, I think our body is still, it's like, okay, go ahead, play, no problem, I will help you. But then I think once we hit the 30s is when there's a big change that happens. I think similar what happens when you hit 40. I think the 30 to 40 is also a crucial period. And I think it's very necessary to, at that time, really understand the cues. I think our body is so intelligent. It gives us so many clues and cues and sounds. I think we tend to ignore it. Because we feel that, oh, if I focus on this, I might not be able to do the other 10 things.
It's even as simple as something I've learned only in the last couple of years. When I feel upset, I get an upset feeling in my body. Maybe like I'm going to cry or something's wrong. You don't just ignore it. You stop and you go, what's wrong? Like, and if you can't quite figure it out, you just sit with it for a minute and like pay attention to it. That's a very simple thing, but I'm telling you, 20 years of just like, oh God, I can't feel bad. Oh God, I can't feel bad. And then like, collapsing one day and crying for, I don't know, like just even if you feel upset, just cry. It'll be like 90 seconds. It's like 90 seconds of crying. These are just simple things.
Yeah, but I think it's puts you in the space of vulnerability, right?
Sure.
And I think that's the biggest issue that women have.
I've read this and I know that I felt it is like, if I start to feel this, I won't be able to stop feeling it. Plus, I mean, I'm 55. My cohort was supposed to do it all. We were supposed to do everything and we could do everything. I mean, in Canada, my mom had the choice of being a nurse or a teacher or a flight attendant. That was her options, right? And I could do whatever I wanted. And I was told all the time, and I should be getting married and having kids and, right? And so it's really tough conditioning to let go of. And I think a lot of women in that cohort, like millennial to Gen X, we're just used to we have to control everything. We're responsible for everything. Yeah. It's like, it's really acidic.
But do you think it's changing now?
I hope so. I know that people get mad about, like conservative and liberal and, Republican, whatever, back in the States. But I see a sort of a movement to like men being masculine, taking care of things, and women letting men take care of them. And I think that definitely was messed up when I was in my 30s and 40s. Like I didn't understand. And now I feel like that feels really nice, right? Like, why wouldn't we just let men do the things that they naturally do and the women, and we can all work and we can all have our dreams and everything. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of us in Gen X had this like ideas of what relationships were like. And I've seen my friends, I never got married or had kids. I'm a real outlier there. I would have liked to, but it just didn't work out. But I have a lot of friends and now their marriages, it's like they didn't ever really have, they were young and they had a good relationship. And then something took over, when the kids come, and then they're not really having a relationship. They never really talked about difficult things. And I just feel like, and then they become less vulnerable. And I don't know. I just feel like there's a way that you could have the traditional roles, but not so much like the guy has to make the money and the woman stays home.
Okay.
Just more that like, as women, it's nice to have a man handle some things, and maybe you can let him handle them.
Anyways, moving back into our whole menopause, perimenopause conversation, if you had to pick, 3 practical actions for a woman entering her menopause years, perimenopause, I would say right now, that would help her, to get the right, right things in place, what would they be?
Eat whole food. this isn't controversial. I don't know why it is controversial. It shouldn't be. Just eat whole food. And if you just decide that most of the food you're going to eat is going to be whole, that you either cook or you buy it as close,
Yep.
then you're going to cut out a lot of the problems that happen with processed foods. They're just really, they're hard for us. And you can get in this little controversy of seed oils and processed oils, but it's just like, how do they make it? And do you know what's in it? And, life is so much better when you're just, you will just feel the difference if you start eating like sweet potatoes and protein and, like chicken and rice. Like that's just really helps you come alive. And I mean, you know a lot more about this than me, but I got really scared of sugar and I used to be very restrictive with sugar and carbs, and I'm waking up a lot more that that's not necessary. And I'm having fruit and I'm having some juice. Like and not getting too caught up in the food fads. Like I would say just all of that, like, because I got into really like processed healthy foods, but they're not healthy, right? I did that in my 40s a lot. So that I would say definitely circadian rhythm, getting outside in the morning for a walk. It will work absolute wonders. Don't wear sunglasses. Get the sun on your eyes. This sets your clock. Your sleep problems will be so much better. And then the flip side of that is really, I tell people all this time, but I can just see they disbelieve me. But no, you know that look when someone's like, I could never do that, which is don't look at your phone before bed.
Yeah.
Just did it last night, ruined my sleep because I had to check something, and then I know even just a few seconds. So definitely circadian rhythm and getting your nourishment. And then it's a tough one, but what is hurting you that you're not acknowledging? What weighs you down or is coming up as anxiety? And how can you just take the first step to having some courage to like figuring out how to unravel that? And whatever it is for you, like if it's a yoga class or it's a breath work app or it's something like being honest with yourself, like, is there some stuff like, my best friend always says, oh, there's a giant closet. Like I haven't even opened it, like she knows.
Yeah.
And she's figuring it out. But I think the earlier you can do that, the better it'll be.
Okay. What does your daily routine look like?
Okay. Well, I really try to walk in the morning and my life goes much better. I have a park near my house. I've lived in that apartment for 12 years. And one of the reasons I don't move is there's a beautiful park in Abu Dhabi and I walk in my bare feet. And probably every couple months I step on a wasp. It's a small price to pay, but it is very annoying. So I do that. I don't have coffee for 90 minutes. I know Andrew Huberman said that, and he's a bro, like longevity guy, but I really found that that's a big difference. I love coffee. I have it a couple times a day. I used to be a crazy exercise fiend. And then when I hit perimenopause, I doubled down because I was feeling so crappy. I'm like, well, it must be because I'm not doing enough exercise. And, so I started working out like crazy. Like I would do spinning and I didn't do weights. So I would do spinning and then I would go to Bikram yoga, like 4 times a week. I would do that combo. So now I just do weights like 3 times a week for like 20, 25 minutes. I have the Sweat app. So sometimes I'll go for a walk in the morning and then I'll go up and do 20 minutes of weights, or I'll do it when I get home because if I've been sitting a lot, I like to do that. And in the evening, I found this out in COVID when I was doing, like everyone else was, baking and doing things in their house. And I was
making
too.
the banana bread.
Yeah. I learned to make pretzels. I learned to make bagels. But I just thought I'm alone. I'm a bit worried that I'm going to sleep. I'm worried about my sleep. I'd had a lot of sleep problems. So I started doing yin yoga or foam rolling every night, or stretching. And I still keep that habit up. I do that a lot. Almost every night I'll do something because man, will you sleep? And I lost weight. And I always think that's crazy. Like I was exercising less. I was eating more. That tells you a little something about nourishment, about helping your body relax. And currently I'm doing in addition to Hotflash Inc, I'm doing a contract for Zayed National Museum. So I'm very, very busy.
Okay.
So I'm there 5 days a week and then I'm working on Hotflash at night. So for me now I have way too much phone in my face. I'm just way too much phone. So that's part of my daily routine. It's just like, do I have to look at my phone? Do I have to look at computer again?
Okay. I have to ask this question. The healthcare industry, I would say the supplement industry, makes, the hype that they create in general. And now if you put the word meno in front of any supplement, they say that, and women, they're like, yeah, if this is going to help me with something, I'll take it. What's your take on these supplements that come out? How and are there any supplements that you actually recommend and you like?
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts on this because when I was feeling so terrible through my 40s, and I went to probably 12 different doctors, and of course, some naturopaths put you on a bunch of stuff. Uh, I remember I was unpacking them when I went home one visit to Canada, and my dad was looking at me and he said, "That can't be good for you." There are so many. But then I also remember in 2019, we took a family trip out to the east coast of Canada, and I was like, I don't want to take all these supplements. I'm not taking any. Didn't sleep the entire vacation. Like I didn't have magnesium and whatever. I just didn't sleep. It was horrendous. And so there's a happy balance between those two things.
Yeah.
I was taking far too many supplements, and I think I was taking a lot of powders that you would put in smoothies that were making things worse. I've since, I just feel like when you're feeling badly, you just grab at everything. And I want people to be more like, be a scientist about it. Be like, okay, I bought some maca. Someone told me it's good. I'm putting it in my smoothie. How does it make me feel? Because I put maca in my smoothie for probably 2 years. And I just recently tried some maca and it made me feel absolutely horrendous.
Okay.
Because it's sort of like I'm very sensitive to hormones, and it helps. You can actually produce more estrogen when you take maca.
Yeah.
Well, so I was like making myself worse in perimenopause, and I did that a number of times with things. So I want people to do that. Like if you add something, just like document how you feel for a long time. I know that's basic, and I should have been doing that, but it's really good supplements that I recommend that helped me. Pycnogenol. No one ever talks about pycnogenol, but it helps hot flashes. And I read it in a Facebook group when I was starting to research hot flash, and I was having hot flashes, and it just stopped them. And it has something to do with improving the flow of nitric oxide. It's a very standardized, studied supplement, not crazy studied for menopause itself, but it's already recommended for heart health. It stopped my hot flashes. And my friend here, she's a makeup artist. She sent me a message a couple of months ago and said, "You kept talking about this crazy pycnogenol." And she said, I took it. She was having like 35 hot flashes a day. And she said that by like the afternoon, they were better. So it's made from the bark of the French maritime tree that grows in the Mediterranean.
Okay.
Yeah. So I recommend that all the time. And when I hear people say hormone therapy is the gold standard for hot flashes, I always think, is it? Or is it pycnogenol? And I really liked lion's mane. Yeah, that's was very good for me when I was struggling with brain fog, but I wouldn't take it at night.
Yeah. It's more on the day to get the nice focus that you require. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, obviously magnesium helps, but I think one thing that helps more, and I interviewed a naturopathic doctor, Jennifer Harrington, who's really good early on. And she said when she gives women minerals, like half of them get better. So I think sure, you can take magnesium, but I think it works better if you're taking all of the minerals. And I think that, because we're sort of we're in such a state of flux and things are so uncertain, when you mineralize yourself, and, that's you can just get Humantra or whatever kind, people get all touchy about does it have additives? Does it not have additives? Whatever. But I just think, and if I'm ever feeling a bit, I still will use them.
Okay. We spoke about a lot of serious stuff, little fun stuff, yeah? We're going to get into a little rapid fire. We're going to say the hot takes from Hotflash. Okay? So whatever comes to your head, quick answers, yeah? Don't think about them.
Okay.
One menopause myth you wish would disappear forever.
It's a disease.
One word to describe midlife.
Fun.
HRT, overhyped, underused, or misunderstood?
Misunderstood.
A morning ritual you can't skip.
Salt.
Salt.
Gray, Celtic sea salt. Little bit of
water,
a few grains and water when I first get up in the morning.
Okay, brilliant. Coffee or matcha?
Coffee.
Hot flash in public. Laugh it off or fan it down?
Laugh it off.
A wellness trend you secretly love?
Red light therapy.
A wellness trend you secretly roll your eyes at?
Wearables everywhere. I can't.
Don't look at my finger then. Most surprising thing you've learned from your guests?
How many gaps there are in the knowledge.
Yeah, okay. One book every woman should read in midlife?
Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Oh, by?
Clarissa Pinkola Estes, I think.
Yeah, I think probably going to get that book for me now. One piece of advice you'll give your 40-year-old self.
Please slow down and figure it out now.
One line. What does thriving in midlife mean to you?
Understanding how much time you have and how much you can do.
Hot flash or hot opinions? Which one lasts longer?
Hot opinions.
If menopause had a PR agency, what's the first slogan you'll write for it?
Oh, that's a tough one. Menopause, it's going somewhere good.
Going somewhere good. One phrase you never want to hear again in the wellness marketing.
Disinformation, misinformation, debunking. Sorry, I said 3 words. Bugs me.
It was a phrase, so it's okay.
Yeah.
If you could send a voice note to the hormones right now, what would you say?
I know you're messengers. I know you're trying to tell me something.
Complete the sentence. Midlife would be easier if women just
Knew how to stop.
Fantastic. Thank you. We had some amazing answers there.
That's a tough one.
But before I let you go, this brings me to my last segment. It's called the 1%. 99% of my podcast is all about women wellness, but men are a part of our lives too. So we've dedicated this 1% to them. What's your 1% advice to the men in our lives? What can men do better to support women?
Don't provide emotional labor. It's everywhere all the time. It's you not being able to find something in the fridge. It's you asking me a question that you could find the answer to. Men have gotten really good at this, and it's wearing, and I don't think either of us realize. And I think if that one thing could be taken apart, we'd all be happier.
Fantastic. Any parting advice or thing that you want to say to our listeners?
Well, I think that when you're thinking about perimenopause and menopause, you're also really scared about aging and getting older. And I was very scared about aging and getting older too. And I seem to have hit a point where it's like, it doesn't really feel like anything. I'm 55. Yeah. It just doesn't really feel like I'm any age, and I'm just excited. And now and then I think, oh, you're 50, but it's not the same as in your 40s. You're very obsessed with this kind of thing, and it does melt away.
Okay. So just enjoy this time, and then you're just going to be the best version coming.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy it. It's not going to bother you as much.
Okay. And where can our listeners connect with you?
Well, I'm Hotflash Inc everywhere. I have a Substack. I have a website. I have Hotflash Inc on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Hotflash Inc podcast.
And that's a wrap for today. If there's one thing I learned from this conversation is that, and I keep saying that menopause is not the time. It's not about pause. It's a powerful era, and it's a wonderful time that's going to come, once you get through this whole probably a little, tough perimenopause phase. But if today's episode, gave you a new perspective or a moment of clarity, please share it with someone else. Because the more we talk about it, it's the more awareness that we can bring, right? Until next time, I'm Gayu Lewis. Menopause, why pause? Let's play.